Welcome, everybody. So this is a kind of a fun one for us to do. We've been doing our monthly webinar series as we go through all of the different products in Zoho, and Cliq is it's one of our favorites because it's something we use every single day, day after day after day for internal communication and external communication. And it's just a great application. You guys voted it last week as the next one you wanted us to do. So we're kind of happy to be doing so. And we'll start off here. We're going to talk a little bit about company messaging and communication platforms, why you need one. And then Tyler's going to go into a deep overview of Zoho Cliq and then a basic setup. And then I'm going to dive into some of the advanced features inside Cliq. And then we're going to talk about something that was basically added to Cliq since the COVID-19 crisis hit. And this is the entire remote work functionality that's part of Cliq. And then we'll open it up for Q&A as we usually do. And as always, just go ahead and drop those questions in the Q&A box, and we'll go from there. So get this going with, why do you need a company messaging communications platform? Well, because they make life a lot easier. So just a little brief history here. This kind of all started with Slack several years ago. They really kind of took chat, took it to the next level, took this inter-team communication. They introduced these slash commands, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, which allowed you to quickly and easily kind of bring in other applications and execute other applications inside your communication tool. And then there's just been a whole bunch of copycats that have come along, Microsoft Teams being the big one that's out there right now. And then you've got Ring Central has got Glip, and they're just go on and on and on. And then there's Zoho Cliq. Zoho Cliq is really full featured. It has just all the features that all the others do. And, we love it. I mean, with Zoho applications, sometimes it takes a little while to get there, but I will tell you that Zoho Cliq, I think, does pretty much everything that all of the other platforms do. And so I think you'll get a nice overview of what we're going to do with that here today. So, why do you want one? Well, it's easy communication and productivity. If I was to look at the top 5 Cliq features, you can have one-on-one video, you can have voice and chat. That means you've got all these dedicated channels where you're just talking to people one-on-one. You can have team channels where you've got voice, group video, group voice, group chat. Great integration with just a ton of Zoho applications. So if you're in the CRM and someone clicks you, it'll actually show up as a chat message on the bottom of the CRM, and a whole bunch of non-Zoho products as well. And we'll kind of talk about that. Easy document sharing, and then kind of the power of the overall slash commands, the ability to add in all of these great plugins into Cliq that allow you to kind of just take it to the next level. And so in a 2015 survey, that's a few years back, but this is the most recent one I could find. Teams that were using Slack said they experienced the following productivity. So a 32% boost in team productivity, a 48.6% reduction in email usage. That's just huge. It's one of the things that Slack does, is rather than emailing, having a whole group CC, that all kind of goes away, and you can really just streamline things by handling it all internally inside Cliq. And then a 25% reduction in meetings. So a lot of great benefits across the board, and we're going to go into those in detail. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tyler, who's going to take us through a Cliq product tour.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll kind of walk through some of the key places to look all throughout Cliq, and kind of highlight where a lot of the work is going to take place in here. So, when you kind of pull up Cliq right out the gate here, it'll drop you into the homepage. So if you have any like open chats from a previous day or anything like that, they'll kind of roll up here into the homepage. They also like to throw in these little quotes when you pop it up. They rotate pretty often, so I think that's kind of funny. So pretty much every day you'll see a different homepage quote waiting for you here. Kind of moving down the left-hand side, we get into our conversations. So a conversation is kind of an umbrella term that Cliq uses. So if you are chatting one-on-one, if you're chatting in a group chat, or if you're chatting in a channel, all of those will get displayed there in your conversations tab. And they kind of rank those by most recently used. So, if I had an open conversation with Brett and with Wayne, and I had messaged Wayne most recently, he'd show up at the top of that list. Moving down the page, we get into the different channels that you may have in an organization. So we'll dig into these a little more later, but basically a channel is a stream of conversation relating to a specific topic or project. So you'll see all the different channels that you're a part of here under the channels page. And And that's where you can go to join channels if there are any that are open for your organization where you can join them. Moving to our next tab is going to be the contacts. So these are, the people that are in your organization. They can also be people from outside your organization that have their own Zoho license. And if they use Cliq, so for example, you might be connected to a Zoho employee or, one of your distributors if they're using Zoho as well. You can actually connect directly to them in Cliq. And then last but not least, when you're working in one of these conversations, up here at the top right, if you don't want to just chat is where you can access some of the other features here for communication, like an audio, video call, or a screen share, which of course includes audio or video if you choose. So you're kind of able to get some of those, meeting software functionalities, right? So for example, if I want to have a quick video call or screen share with Brett, we don't need to make a Zoom link and send it over. I can just pull this up and click screen share, and then we're off to the races, working on whatever it is that we need to work on. And up here in the left, I kind of wanted to highlight something here. So, you'll see if you spin up Cliq for your organization, it'll kind of load in all the different users into contacts, but you actually need to add them to your instance of Cliq as a contact. It's a little confusing because they show up there anyways. So up here at the top left, when you do onboard any new users, you'll make sure to add them as a contact under their name when you pull up the chat window. And that basically just allows both of you to see each other a little bit easier, and then you can see each other's statuses. So once we go ahead and add him, we'll see now he shows up under our conversations, and we can see that that user is offline based on their status, which again just becomes visible once you officially make that connection and add them as a contact. Now, up here in the top right-hand side of the screen, under the little user icon, is where you'll get into all the different kind of back-end settings that Cliq has available to you. So, here you're able to set your status, right? So if you want to say I'm available, I'm away, I'm busy, right? You can get in here and do that for your own account. Moving down the page, we start with the My Cliq section, which is kind of Cliq customization specific to you. So obviously some users that aren't admins might not have all the different tools, like, maybe not everyone can add a bot or not everyone can invite a guest. But, they kind of roll up the different settings based on what they apply to. So these are going to be the ones that are kind of specific to you. You also have a set of settings for your organization. Again, these are really only going to be available for admins, as, this is like adding or removing users. This is updating your subscription or importing a bunch of data into Cliq, as you can actually migrate from a lot of those other services like Slack or Microsoft Teams. So again, those are kind of more at the admin level. And then last but not least, they have a help section where you're able to connect out to Zoho. So you can kind of see any of their upcoming news, any resource guides they have. If they run any upcoming webinars, you can see them here. And you can also chat with Zoho, which is a great way to get support from them, and get like live answers. So if you have a quick question, like, hey, what's the difference between a group conversation and a channel, or why would I make a channel private? You can just chat over to Zoho and they're happy to help out with any questions that you have. And so kind of getting through the overview, we can now move into some of the base setup and customization. So I'll walk through a couple different topics here, starting with adding a contact. So over on the left-hand side of the screen, if you click the little plus next to add contacts there, it'll pull up a little screen where we can add different people to our contact list. So first, we're going to go ahead and add just an example user here. I'm actually adding myself on Cliq. It's highlighting that this is a user not from our organization. So I thought I would use this example to kind of show that, regardless of if someone is part of your Zoho organization or part of a different Zoho organization, you can add them as a contact here. So, once you type in their email address and click on their name, it'll go ahead and add them at the bottom. You can add people in bulk as well. So if I wanted to add Tyler and Brett and Wayne, I could just, kind of motor through all three of those and add them at once. Once we click next, it'll go ahead and send that invite over to the other user's Cliq account. So once I accept that here, we see it'll actually pull in my profile picture. There's a tiny little green dot there that shows that I'm online. And then that's pretty much all you need to do. So now you've got that person added as a contact, and you're able to spin up a chat or add them to any group conversations or anything like that moving forward. So the other kind of key place to show here, and I wanted to just take a pause on this button because it does a lot of different things. It's this little plus button at the top. This is one of the kind of catch-all ways to create new conversations or create new channels, or even, start a broadcast and kind of live stream out to anyone in your Cliq organization. We're going to focus on just a few of these for the customization here, which will be about group conversations and channels. So if we pause here for a sec, I just want to highlight before we jump in, conversations and channels are very similar functionally, meaning that, a group conversation is a group of people in your organization that are talking about things. And a channel is also a group of people in your organization talking about things. So the best practice here in the way that you want to organize these is that a group conversation should be just for 3 or 4 people to talk about anything that they need to talk about, versus a channel should be, your group of people talking about a specific thing or a specific project, right? So we might have a group conversation for Brett, Wayne, and myself, where we're just going to talk about any old thing that comes up that applies to the 3 of us. But we might have a separate channel specifically for, producing the CRM Zen show. And the reason for that is that just down the line, if you ever want to pull up and say, like, maybe find a file that was sent about the CRM Zen show, maybe we made a new logo and want to find that easier. If you're kind of consistent in keeping conversations topic specific in those channels, it just makes finding things and organizing things a lot easier. So first we'll go ahead and create a group conversation. This is really simple and easy to do. So it'll pull up people that it thinks are applicable for this. Since I only have 2 contacts added on this little demo account here, it pulled them up. So I'll go ahead and just add Ben and Tyler here to our group channel or our group conversation. It'll go ahead and suggest a chat title where it'll just put all 3 or 4 people's names. So we'll go ahead and just use that here, and we'll make our conversation for Ben, Tyler, and Zen. We'll see now over here on the left-hand side, it goes ahead and adds that to our conversation list. Each one of these gets kind of a different icon. So we'll see the little 3 circles there means it's a group conversation. The one little filled in circle means it's an individual. And then the hashtag or #sign means that it is an announcement. And so then if I, send any messages out through this group conversation, it goes ahead and pings both of the different users that I went ahead and added. And then kind of moving on, we'll go ahead and jump into channels. So there's a little bit more under the hood here. So I want to kind of walk through a couple of the different settings around channel creation, how to keep these organized. So the first thing that you're going to do is, go ahead and give it a name, right? So this could be a total kind of wide variety of different things that you might name a channel. It might be customer service. It might mean, weekend trip planning. There's kind of anything can be created to a channel. So we'll go ahead and just enter our first title here, which will be for customer support. So, this first use case would be, maybe we just want to have a channel specifically for people that do our customer support, so that they're able to coordinate specifically about tasks or questions or things that need to be done to make sure the customers stay happy. And, when we do that, given that this is based on a specific department or a specific role or specific function of the company, we want to create that as an organization channel. So basically these organization channels are meant to be created for those use cases, right? So for a specific department or use case for people to be able to communicate about those topics. Now, when you create one of these organization channels, you can either make it open to all, or you can make it invite only. Really the difference here is that something like, company announcements, you want to just make open to all. Anyone can go ahead and just join that channel and start getting any announcements that come out about the company. Versus something like customer support, you might want to make invite only. For that one, you're not going to be handling any sensitive data or things like that. But you want to make sure that people aren't kind of clogged up with a whole bunch of channels that don't apply to them. So though it isn't kind of like a life or death situation to make it invite only for these department specific channels, it's kind of a best practice just so that people kind of stay focused on what's applicable to them, right? I mean, I know personally for me, if I have a little notification bubble on anything, I've got to go check it, as soon as I can. So you want to limit those for people if they're not going to apply based on their job or their role. So again, we can make those either open or invite only. Kind of moving forward, you can also create personal channels. So the idea with a personal channel would be that it's one for a group of people at the organization to talk about things that might not be business related, right? So maybe you are planning a big weekend trip and you just want to create a channel for that so that anyone that's going can quickly communicate about what they're going to bring and what I'm going to bring and when we're leaving, right? But you kind of keep that out of the work conversation channels, right? So things aren't kind of getting crossed and you're not getting cross communication where 5 messages go out about the weekend trip and now we miss a message about customer support. So we want to keep all these in their own little buckets so that we don't lose any information in our conversations. And then last but not least, the third type of channel that we can create is an external channel. So this is the only type of channel where you can add external users. So for our purposes here, if I wanted to add the Tyler at Zenatta contact to a channel, it would need to be external because they're not part of this demo organization. So this would be, if you had a close relationship with one of your suppliers and maybe you wanted to, and you knew that they use Zoho Cliq, you could make a channel where the both of you could talk about, shipments going out or any issues that need to be resolved. You could also create one here, to communicate with customers. If you are selling things to a company that has Zoho Cliq, you can actually spin up a channel and invite them to communicate with you directly there. So it does kind of provide, assuming that whoever you're talking to externally has Zoho, it does provide kind of a direct line and some cool possibilities for, easy and rapid communication, even when people are outside of your organization. And last but not least, we'll see here, once you create a channel, so we went ahead and created our customer service channel. It just gets added over here on the side under a channel. And then once we start chatting in it, it'll go ahead and add itself as a conversation. The last little thing here, and this is one that's kind of easy to miss, but really helpful, is if you have some very important conversations or channels that you want to check very regularly, you can actually pin them. So if you hover over the little line with where the channel is, it'll show a little pin icon. And once you pin it, it'll go ahead and move up to the top of the page there under My Pins, I guess top left of the page, which will just help so that, if you have a bunch of different channels or conversations going, which, it's really easy once you start going in here to have, 10, 15 different channels. You're able to make sure that if there's, 3 or 4 that you need to check really regularly, you can go ahead and pin those and keep them kind of front of mind here in Cliq.
All right. Hey, thank you, Tyler. And I tell you, the pins are just huge because when you have so many conversations going after a period of time, it seems like people disappear, drop off. You'll end up with hundreds of people in here. So by pinning your top conversations, it's super important. So Tyler, I appreciate that. Now we're going to talk about some of the advanced features inside Cliq. So first off, we're going to start in the Cliq marketplace. So if you're not familiar, the Zoho marketplace is just growing. They crossed over 1,000 applications last week that are in here, and they break them down by all the various categories. So you've got CRM, Sales IQ, Books, Inventory, and under communication, you have Cliq. So what they've done is we're starting to see various applications come in for Cliq, and I've highlighted a few of them here. I've got one for Zoho Mail, Todoist, GoToWebinar, Stripe. They're basically even HubSpot, other CRMs in there. And I'm going to kind of focus on one here for the Zoho Notebook. So when you're in the marketplace, if you install one of these applications, it's a pretty straightforward process. You just click into it, you click install, and you're given some choices. Do I want to install it? Do I want to get some extra promotions? I agree to the terms of service. And then, you're installing it for your entire organization. So sometimes you're given a choice. Do I want to install it for my entire organization or not? When it relates to Cliq, there are certain extensions that are kind of for your whole organization. They're letting you know that. And this is going to install kind of 3 various elements in your Cliq. So number 1, it's going to install the / commands. And so if you'll see, it's going to / notebook is going to allow you to do an entire variety of things. I'm going to talk about that. And then it's also going to install the Zoho Notebook bot, which lets you do notifications and provides some other features as well. And then it's going to give you what are called message actions, and it's going to give you an add to notebook message action. And we'll kind of talk about what these are as well down the road. And then once you do that, you just go ahead and you install it, and it's done, and you just go directly back into Cliq. So kind of talking about this a little bit, let's talk about what slash commands are. These are really powerful, and you can have them for a whole variety of things. Out of the gate, it comes with these slash commands. So you get, mail. So you can basically, just send current chat transcripts to a user. So you do slash mail, put in the user's name, and it'll email to them. You can mute a channel for days, hours. You can pin a chat to the sidebar. You can set reminders. You can do all sorts of little emoji type things like shrugs, and then you can unmute a channel after you've muted it. As you start adding in the various plugins, you will see that then, over time, the new ones will appear. So now I added Notebook in, and so Notebook is now available as a new slash command. There are some powerful ones in here. You can put the CRM in, and you can actually pull a deal directly in. So you can, say, hey, does anybody have an update on this? You can pull a contact in. Has anybody spoken to this person? And it basically brings in the direct link. So it's a lot of different slash commands you can pull in here. These are borrowed directly from Slack. They kind of invented this, and so the ability to pull these things in is it's really powerful. So with Notebook, once you basically click on that, the very first time you're going to do it, it's going to allow you to have access to Work Drive, access to Notebook, access to Docs, access to ZS Search. You have to approve that it has access to all of these things, and then once you do that, it will access your entire notebook. So I've just put a couple notes in here. I've got one called a note and another note, which was an important note and an even more important note. And so just to kind of show you what you can do in Cliq. So let's say you're using Zoho Notebook and you have all sorts of different notes in there, and you wanted to share one. So I'm talking to Tyler here, and I want to share one with Tyler. Well, I can just hit that slash command Notebook, and it brings up all of my notes. And I have a choice here of whether or not I want to go ahead and post that. So I'm going to choose post another note, and when I do that, it posts that entire note to Tyler. So you've got something, you want to say, take a look at this, a quick and easy way to share notes from your Zoho Notebook with anybody inside Cliq. So pretty powerful. The slash commands, really look at them, go look in the marketplace, install the ones when you do, the integration with CRM. I think the slash commands there are going to be pretty powerful for you. So I recommend you take a look at those. The other ones are bots. Most of the time, these are going to do various types of notifications for you. It's interesting in that the Zoho Notebook bot will not only do notifications, but it'll kind of do more sort of kind of go back. Once you just type in this little @ symbol down at the bottom, it's going to bring up a list of all your bots. So in this case, and this also allows you to do mentions. So there's a whole bunch around that, but by bringing that up, you can say, I want to do something with Taz, or in this case, I'm going to choose the Notebook bot. Once I choose that, you'll see it automatically fills in @ Zoho Notebook bot down at the bottom. And then if I type anything after this, it's actually going to create a note. So after that, I type, this is another important note that I need to add to my notebook. And it went ahead and it added that note directly into my notebook. Now, let's say you want to start, we talked about categorizing things in channels. If you're in Zoho Notebook, you can have multiple notebooks. So it's also going to allow you to move various things around. So once I added that message, maybe I wanted to put it in my follow-up notebook. I wanted to put it in a client notebook, the CRM Zen Show notebook. You can easily categorize these quick thoughts and just directly drop them into the various notebooks that they need to go into. And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about message actions. So message actions are unique and extremely powerful in that once you've actually sent a message, so I have this long message here. Let's say I want to do something with that. Well, over on the side, what you'll see, those 3 little dots over in the corner. If you click on those, it's basically going to give you all sorts of things you can do. You can fork this, send it to a different conversation, set a reminder on this message, mark this message as unread, edit your message, copy a URL, pin the message, and then if you click the More button, it's going to give you a whole bunch of other choices that you can do. And these are all kind of custom message actions you've put in. There are a whole bunch of these we've done. We actually have a tutorial that you can find on our YouTube channel. And actually, if you go to our website and just search for Cliq or Connect to Click or Click to Connect, it basically will allow you to send a message to Connect and add it to a message board. And you can build a whole bunch of these really, really powerful message actions where you're basically taking these messages and routing them different places and doing different things to them. In this case, it's added the add to notebook message action. And once you click that, it's kind of nice. It allows you to actually put in a title, maybe edit the message, associate some tags from it. And right from here, you can say what notebook you want it to go into. So oftentimes you're working, you've got an entire conversation thread going, you want to quickly get that over so you don't lose it. And if you're using Zoho Notebook, that's a powerful little feature to go ahead and add that in as well. And then once it's done, hey, it's added to. And I do want to point out here, oftentimes you'll see this message is visible only to you. It's not really cluttering the channel. So you do something, you've added it to, in this case, you've added this entire message to a notebook. Tyler doesn't need to see that. So just letting me know that the message has been added to the notebook, and I can do that at any time. And then there it is, directly added into the notebook. All right. And that is going to bring us to our kind of a new feature that Zoho has added in, which is remote work. This is kind of cool. So it's part of Cliq and it's up at the top. Tyler covered the home screen earlier. It's just directly below the home screen. So, in our little demo account, we've got, I'm logged in as Zenatta, and we've got, Ben Atta is there as well. We've talked about adding Jen and Ken Atta, but the demo account only lets us have a couple, two users. So you can see we've got the various users here, and they're showing us away. We've got nobody at work, and no group calls going on right now. You can very quickly, by hitting the check-in button or under where it says remote work, kind of hitting that little toggle switch, you can go ahead and you can check in. And once you've checked in, it's basically going to move you over to the at work. So it's showing that I'm at work and that I've checked in. And then there's a whole bunch of things I can do. You can go ahead and set your status while you're checked in. I'm available. I'm available for collaboration. I'm working. I'm busy right now. So just want to let you know that you can still bother me, but I'm working. I'm taking a lunch break and I'm gone for 60 minutes. So it's going to set you as unavailable during that period of time. Or I'm taking a quick break and I'm gone for 15 minutes. So it's going to let you, again, make you unavailable for that period of time. You can also just quickly initiate a group call from directly within here. So this is kind of a nice feature. Tyler talked about this a little earlier, but normally when you want to do a group call, if you're in channels, you'll want to create a channel and choose who you want to do the group call with, or maybe just initiate that. Here you can just click group call and then just give it a topic and just add whoever you want to put into it. So it's a team check-in. You choose all the users that you want to do it. You choose whether it's video or audio. And once you've done that, away you go. One last thing I kind of really want to highlight here is up in the upper left-hand corner. This is a feature they've done called live video feed, which is part of remote work. And when you click on this live video feed, it's basically going to go ahead and turn on your camera. And so if you really want, Orwellian 1984 kind of stuff here, well, you can have your camera on and people can be watching you to making sure you're at work. So this is for those paranoid supervisors that really want to make sure that someone is sitting at their desk and they're doing their work. You've got a live video feed. We do have clients that are using this, and if you force it and you have everybody over here and you see who's at work, you see who's away, you see if they've got their video camera on, if they're really at their desk or they're not at their desk, well, it kind of gives you that ability to do it. So this is one of those things that, again, recently added. They've been refining it. And with more and more companies moving to maybe a work from home environment, some of them are finding this to be extremely valuable to make sure that their employees, in fact, are working and what they're doing. And by the way, this will generate big reports on the back end. It'll tell you how long you were at work for, what your hours were. You've got companies who are using this as time cards and all of that as well. So, kind of an odd little place for Cliq, but it's a good place for Cliq, a good place to put this feature, because most people, most businesses who have Cliq, they live in it. So they're doing all their chats, they're doing all their work here. So it's kind of a good place to put this additional feature. And with that, Tyler, I'm going to turn the Q&A over to you. I know you've been answering a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. I'll go ahead and run through some of the ones that we have answered, and then we'll kind of catch additional ones as they are coming through. So first, we had a question around setting up away messages, and this would kind of function similar to like an auto response email, right? If I'm out of office, maybe you want to ping someone back. It was interesting when I saw the question, I kind of dug in expecting to find, a little workflow setting or something around that, but it doesn't appear that that's supported yet. I wouldn't be surprised to see Zoho add it, as they do like to add workflow logic like that into pretty much all of their applications. So you actually, with that question, kind of gave me something that I want to bring up to the Cliq team, because that would be really nice, right? So basically, if your status was away, you could automatically respond to any messages saying, "Hey, I'm away." I think the only thing that would make that a little trickier, and maybe why they haven't done it, is group conversations or channels, right? You don't want to be like blasting out a bunch of those, but a setting for that would definitely be nice, but unfortunately not there quite yet. We also had a question around, external users that have been added right now, given that the Cliq enterprise version is kind of free in a couple of the different packages that Zoho is offering due to COVID. There was a question, once that free deal is gone, if they're going to have to pay or if they can continue using it for free and joining your channels. It does seem like they're going to need to pay. The free version of Cliq by default does do a lot of things, but once they roll back a lot of this free stuff that's currently going on for COVID, the standard free edition is not going to be able to join any of the external channels. So, they'd have to spin up a paid Cliq account to still be a part of any of those channels that you have going. Now, if they do decide to upgrade their account and make it paid, they would retain all of the functionality that they currently have now. So it's not like they would need to make a new account and you need to re-add them to your channels, but they would need to roll up to an actual paid account. We also had a question about pinning messages. So we didn't touch on this too much in the walkthrough here, but when you're in a specific conversation or channel, you can actually pin a message to the top of it. So if there's something key that you want anyone who spins up that channel to see, you can pin it. There's a question if you could pin more than one message, and unfortunately we cannot, just because it kind of takes up some prime real estate there, and they really only have the option to add one. Let's see here. Did have a question around like having to re-log in. They're saying that Slack, everyone kind of stays logged in, whereas they're seeing that in Cliq, you have to re-log in each time. That's really just going to depend on your organization settings. So in Zoho, like especially if you're at a Zoho 1 instance, you can set up and say that, logins last 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, a month, right? Where people will be forced to log back in. So a lot of times those are just some, default settings. Like I can say for me, I stay logged into Cliq all the time, and I rarely ever have to re-log in. We had a question around best practices for external users. It kind of seemed like, someone had a workaround where, to add an external user, they need a Cliq account. And to have a Cliq account, you need to have a company name. And so maybe we were adding external users that really weren't people that were at a company. Maybe they were end users or customers. So unfortunately, there's no workaround for the company name. They have to put something in there. So, he kind of said that they're putting in like their first name company, so John Co. or something like that. So unfortunately, that is a requirement to create a Cliq account, is to have that company name.
Yeah, I could say I want to kind of add to this. There's a couple things around this. So, we actually never run into this because everybody that we're dealing with has a Zoho account. It's usually Zoho 1, so they have Cliq. Cliq is $3 per user per month. It's super, super inexpensive. So what I've actually seen in the past, and that's if you have it 10 users, it actually goes lower as you go up. If you get up to 500 users, it goes down to as little as 99 cents per user per month. But what you'll want to see is that, if you have a ton of external users, their customers, their clients, you can actually spin up a separate Cliq account, just Cliq, and you can pay for that separate for your organization, give it a whole different name, which is, maybe it would be Zenatta, external users, and I guess in our case, and then just add people to it as you want to be able to communicate with them and just send them out their single Cliq license. Yes, it'll cost you $3 a month, but it's kind of a down and dirty way to manage that. If you think it's worth it, if these are clients of yours and it's worth spending $3 a month on them to keep them inside your organization, or having them have access to Cliq without having to buy it, that's something you can do. Or they can in fact buy it themselves for $3 a month. So it's not really a very expensive solution, but that's kind of one workaround. If you have paying customers, you just kind of want to bring them into that portal. It's kind of a small price to pay, and the more users you get up, the lower the price is going to go.
Gotcha. We also had a quick question around editing the remote status options, kind of renaming them, setting different default times. Fortunately, that's not there yet. They did just release remote work pretty recently here, so they're kind of working on a lot of different functionality at once. Would not be surprised to see them add a little more customization there over time. But as of right now, they kind of have those set options for, I'm at my screen, I'm engaged in something, I'm at lunch, or I'm on a break of a certain time period. So they kind of give you some catch-alls to use, which basically are like, I'm ready or I'm not ready for you to chat me. But unfortunately, they haven't quite opened that up to full customization. We also had a question around sending a Cliq using either VBS or VBA. I'll kind of expand that to a wider topic on Cliq, that one of the advantages of a tool like this is that it's much more integratable, right? So, email, though it's a really useful tool, you can't always send emails programmatically as easy as you can send messages with Cliq. So a lot of times what we'll do there to set up those integrations is you can actually just set up like a webhook endpoint over in Zoho Flow. And then if you post data to that webhook, you can route that just through kind of drag and drop integrations to send Cliq messages. So, for example, it's very easy to set up, like if a certain thing happens in the CRM, like maybe, in some of these you don't need a custom integration, but let's say a certain box is checked inside of a deal record in the CRM, you can ping out a message into a Cliq channel saying, hey, the box was checked for deal number 1, very, very easily. So Cliq is a super integratable tool, especially when you put it together with Zoho Flow. We also had a question about generating the reports around remote work. I hadn't had a chance to type this one out yet, but if you go into Cliq, you can go under the settings and then admin panel. And then at the very bottom of the admin panel, there's a tab for reports and then remote work. And the interesting thing is, if you have Zoho People turned on for your organization, it'll actually route you over to Zoho People to see those reports. But they just live under the Cliq settings themselves, under your kind of admin panel or admin settings. Let's see, is there an integration into Zoho Work Drive? I believe you can pull, so when you're looking, you can actually pull directly from Work Drive. So if you're looking at, like, maybe we could pull up, if we go back a couple slides, any of them with conversation, you have a little paperclip option when you're looking at a conversation, and from there, you can attach from the cloud. And so one of the options for the cloud, just any of these with a conversation will show it.
Yeah. I gotta go way back. I'll find one.
There we go. So over there on the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you have a little paperclip, and one of the options in there will be from cloud, and then you can just pull directly from Work Drive based on your whatever's available to you on your Zoho login. Someone asked if we could go over setting up a / command again. Maybe we want to walk through those real quick. It's kind of the basics there.
Sure.
Actually, I could even pull up my screen.
Give me 1 second. I got it here.
Okay.
There we go. So, in this setting up the / command, we really are basically doing it directly from the Zoho Marketplace. So what we did, if we go back, and I guess that would be the best place for us to start, is really we just grabbed we grabbed anything from the Zoho Marketplace. So all of these would basically enable slash commands. So if you were to install GoToMeeting, it's going to do a slash command to launch a GoToMeeting. If you were to do HubSpot, it's going to do a slash command to pull in a record from HubSpot. Same with CRM once you do that CRM integration. But basically, you'll find on the backside of the CRM, if you start adding anything, if you do any of the direct Zoho connections that are internal with Zoho applications, it's going to add slash commands. And if you do anything that exists inside this marketplace, it'll basically add slash commands for them as well. So it's just go to marketplace.zoho.com, choose Cliq, add these in. Once they're added in, you'll have those commands that will allow you to do various things. And also look at the internal applications themselves. So for example, if you're in CRM, look at that, do that direct integration. So there are a lot of direct integrations that you'll want to do that will go ahead and add those slash commands as well. Anything you would add to that, Tyler?
Yeah, there is kind of one last thing around slash commands. We didn't touch on them too much because it's more of a developer function, but actually, if you don't mind, I could pull up my screen and show this real quick.
Sure.
So there's just one little extra thing you can do with these slash commands. So basically, as you're adding, a lot of them get pre-populated via those marketplace plugins, right? So like once you add, Bitly, you get a certain slash command for that. Once you add Notebook, you get a slash command for that. But you can also actually come in here and create a custom command. So like, let's say I want to just do like slash example, right? And then I could come in here and actually, oops, sorry about that. But I could come in here and actually code in or write a deluge function or certain tool, right, to actually create a custom slash command. So in general, they get in here from the different bots that you have installed. But you can also kind of create your own under settings and commands. You can actually come in here and kind of dial in a couple custom options if you do have a use case that isn't really captured by any of the plugins.
All right. Let me see if I can share back here again. All right. Any other questions we didn't answer? I think we got them all, did we?
I think so.
One more open. I think we're good. All right. Well, with that, we want to thank everybody for joining us. As always, you can contact us. Just send us an email over at info@zenatta.com, or we'd love if you would follow us. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And also, you can subscribe to our newsletter by Zenatta.com newsletter, and follow us on YouTube at Zenatta.com. As a matter of fact, we actually were broadcasting this live on YouTube for the first time. And we're going to be doing all the CRM Zen shows live on YouTube as well. So if you don't follow us on CRM Zen, that show records usually every Friday morning. Sometimes we have to move things around if Tyler and I are going to be out of town on a Friday. But we also, once you subscribe to the newsletter, one of the things you can do is actually say, hey, I'd like to get notified when that show goes live. We'll send you an email about a half an hour before the show is going to go live, or as it's going live, saying, hey, click this link, come on over and listen in, and you can kind of see how the sausage is made there. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing the show, and you can listen to our gaffes, because that edited version that Wayne does for us, that bears no resemblance to the show as it's actually made. So, hey everybody, we will see you in September. It'll be the last Tuesday in September for our next webinar on Zoho Connect. It'll be a lot of fun. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.